For After Effects Lesson 1, we're going to take a look at the program itself, its workspace, and we're going to complete a small project. So you are going to need a JPEG image that just tells us something about you. And we're just going to kind of go through these different steps. I'm going to explain how the basics of the program and the panels, and then we're going to kind of put this little project together. We're then going to talk about rendering and how you'll actually create the video and not just an After Effects file from that finished product, okay? So you're going to start off by first creating a new folder. So you're going to go into your File Explorer and wherever you want to save this to. Right now, I don't want you to save it to like OneDrive. Save it to a desktop, save it to your downloads or your documents or your pictures. You can move this after we're done and actually put it somewhere that makes sense and move it into like your storage files where you save stuff for this class. But we're going to do it this way. That way there's no downloading, uploading, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to just come up here and create a new folder. Now, the reason we're doing this while we're making it is that with this program, everything has to be in the same area. So if you create a video and you use multiple little videos, if they're not in that same folder and they get moved or adjusted, then whenever you go to work on that AEP file, you can have problems that it may not see those. Or if you were turning this file into me and you were turning in that APE file to me, then if I don't have that video that you put in it or still image or any of the other stuff that we add to these, if I don't have that, then it's going to give me this little rainbow box that tells me that there's an issue with your video because there's nothing there. Now, once we render it, you can then use that rendered file, which will be a actual movie file, an MP4, whatever kind of file you save it as. You can then give that to other people and it would be fine. But for the class, since we are going to be working in this AEP format until we render, you do need to put everything in the same place. So inside this AE lesson 1 file that I just created, I'm going to double click on it. And I went ahead and I downloaded an image. It's in my downloads. I'm going to use one of a turtle that I have. It's right here. So this is the image I'm going to use. So I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in this file. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and rename it right here. And then I'll also show you how to rename it inside the program so that you can keep your layers nice and clean and be able to find everything. So now in this AE lesson 1, as we save, as we work, everything's going to be saved into this AE lesson 1 folder. That way we can keep going down. Okay, so now that I have this saved in here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to open up After Effects. And let me kind of explain After Effects to you. Okay, so After Effects, we're going to be doing two things in this program, including some video editing and some animation. This program is really great for creating animation videos. It does the basic kind of thing for doing any kind of video editing. It's not as video editing intense as like Premiere Pro, but it's not supposed to be. So it allows you to do some editing, but that's not what it's about. After Effects is about the effects. So it's about putting those special effects into your other projects, okay? So when you open up this program, you're going to notice a couple things. It looks just like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, any of those when you open the main screen. You're going to see New Project, Open Project, Home, and Learn all here on the left-hand side. As well as you may have a screen right here if you've just recently updated this or you haven't opened it before. It'll say Create a Composition. So mine, I've done a couple projects, so they're right here. But so what we're going to do is come up here to New Project. And inside this right here, let's go through the panels. Now, what we're going to do is we're all going to be on the same page. So go to Window, Workspace, and you want to come down here to Standard and make sure Standard is checked. Now, I will tell you that if you're working on a laptop and you have your resolution up really big, what I sometimes call old man mode in class, it's so that you like all of your stuff is intensified and made a lot larger. If you're in that, you may not be able to see workspace. You may have to just scroll up. But under workspace, you'll see all these different workspaces. We're going to do standard, and then make sure you do it again and do reset standard, just so that we're all on the same page. Now you will see in here, when I go back to it, that there's ones that have like essentials graphics. We will use that one this semester. There's ones that focus on text. There's ones that focus on animation. So there's a lot of different workspaces up in here. Ours is just a standard basic one. Okay. Across the top, you're going to have your usual little drop-down menus that you can find different things in. We'll be talking about those as we go. Your toolbar is actually right here across the top. Your selection tool is the white arrow. That's one of the most important ones that we'll need. This panel here, whenever you select and activate a panel, it will outline it with blue. So this panel right here is your project panel, and this is where you're going to import all of your items in that you're going to be putting into your video. Your middle one, this is going to be your composition panel. Your composition is basically like your document that you would work on in Illustrator or InDesign. So like a artboard in Illustrator or just a document in Photoshop. So we'll create the actual video here. Then over to the side, this is kind of like a properties panel in other programs. This is where you're going to find like your info. You can do preview. There's a play button here once we actually start having our video going. Effects and presets. You can do things in effects and presets like fade ins, fade outs. You can do the matrix lettering where the like letters like trickle down the screen. You can do something like that. You can make it snow. You can make sunshine through the trees. You can do a lot of that stuff in this effects and presets. Then this is going to be one of the most important panels that we work with. This is your timeline. Now, once we start adding stuff in with both videos and animation, it's broken down by frames. So this is going to allow you to break it down by frames, be able to see all of those frames, and be able to make adjustments to those frames. And just like with Photoshop or Illustrator, the order on this left side, what order you put things in is what order you will see them on the screen. So, you know, the highest one on the list is the first thing you see when you look at the screen. The lowest thing would be more like your background. Okay. So let's get started, and we're going to do just a really simple little project. So we're going to come up here, and you can do this one of two ways. You can right click here and do new composition, or you can come over here and just click new composition. We're going to be working with this one. The difference is with new composition and composition from footage. The composition from footage, if you have a video that you want to work with and you click on that, it will set it to that footage. Since we're going to set all of this ourselves, we're going to start right here and do new composition. Now, I always suggest that you name this something that makes sense. I'm going to call mine lesson 1. Just so I know that's the composition I'm working on. If you're working on a very large project, you could have multiple compositions that you're going to put together at the end. So you want it to just say lesson 1. Next, we're going to come down here and we're going to set our preset. So if you do this little drop down and you come down here in the 2023 version, so if you were updated to the 2023 version or past that, if this is in the future, then it's going to look a little different than if it was the 22 version or before. Okay, so they may not be in quite the same order. I think in the 22 version and before that, they were flipped. The bigger numbers are at the top and the smaller numbers at the bottom, but it doesn't really matter. You can still find them. They're still in there. So we want to do HDTV 1280 by 720 at $29.97. And I'm going to explain what all this means to you in just a second, but this is the one that we're going to go with. And like I said, on the older version, I believe this one is above this one, so just make sure you get the $29.97, okay? Whoops, and I went too far. Let me open that back up. Okay, so next thing down that you're going to see is you'll see that it switches your width to the 1280, it switches your height to the 720. It should say square pixels. We're staying with the square pixels. We don't need to make any changes to that. And then frame rate. Frame rate is 2997. So that means there's 29.97 frames per second. So there was also a setting that was in the presets that was 25 frames per second. There's a 24. There's a 23 up here. It all depends on what you're doing. I personally usually try to stick with the 29 just because it's easier for me to kind of break it down mathematically when I'm trying to do individual frames. So if I know I want something every 6 frames or whatever like that, it's easier for me. But we're just going to do the 29.97. It's pretty standard. So that is right here. And I'll show you even more how it breaks down when we get our timeline up and going. Resolution. So resolution, whenever you do the drop down, we're going to leave it on full for right now because we're only using one image. So the bigger the images, the more images you have, it's going to slow down the process of the program itself. So you can actually come in here and change your resolution. You can also change your resolution in this composition screen back here. You can see it says it right here, even though it's grayed out. What it does is it downs the size of those images just while you're working on it. And then you can go back and switch it back to full. It'll put those images or those videos back up to full resolution. And then it will, if it takes longer, then you can go ahead and render it, turn it into a video, and you're fine. It just makes it easier for while you're working to not slow down your computer. So we're going to stick with full because we're only using one image today. Start time, we're going to leave this at all zeros. So if yours isn't at all zeros, go ahead and highlight it and just change it into all zeros. What it does is start your video at 0 instead of starting your video at like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, so it starts at 0. Why is this important? Well, if you're working on multiple compositions, you may want to start one at 0 and start the next one at like 5 seconds or wherever that second video would come into play. And then when you put them together, they go together seamlessly at that time. Okay, duration. Duration is going to be how long your video is going to run. Now, you'll see that there's a time clock here, there's a time clock here, and there's a time clock here, or a timestamp, whichever one you want to refer to them. So with the timestamp, how it works is, I always tell people to think about when you're in elementary math and you have to learn ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and that type of setting after a decimal point. It's the same type of idea, but you're starting with hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Okay, so it breaks it down like that. So if you wanted something that was an hour long, you would type in 1, semicolon, 00, semicolon, 00, semicolon, 00. And that would give you 1 hour. If you wanted something, for some reason, you wanted 1 frame, which would be like blink of an eye fast, but you would type in just 1. So it'd be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. You can go in and mess with the semicolons and replace them, or kind of go in and highlight where you need it to go. Or if you want to do it quicker, you can just go in and type in the number that corresponds with that. So let's say frames. I want 10 frames. I type in 10. I have 10 frames now. And you can see there's the 10. If I wanted 10 seconds, I would select it all and I would type in 1000 and hit tab. Now you'll see the 10 is in the seconds position and then the 2 zeros are in the frame. Okay. If I wanted 10 minutes, I would go 10, 0, 0, 0, 0, tab, and now I'm at 10 minutes. And then if you want, like I said, if you wanted an hour, it'd be 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and tab. And now you'll see that it's in an hour. Okay. So we want to do 10 seconds. So we're just actually going to type in 1000 and hit tab. Now you can change your background color. The mistake that some people make is that sometimes they think this background color is going to be the full background of their video. It's not. I usually keep mine white. So you can click on it right here and you can type in all Fs if you want white. If you want it to be another color for whatever reason, you can go ahead and change it here too. But for the purpose of this video, go ahead and type in 6 Fs. the letter F in this bottom box and hit OK. And that'll give you perfect white. And then hit OK. Now, you'll see over here to the left, there's a little icon right here. It's like a circle and a square. This means this is a composition. So this is everything. Think of it kind of like a folder that we're dumping everything we're doing into. Okay. So everything we work on goes into this composition, this document. Now, you can also go back and make any changes. So let's say that you were working on it, you thought you were going to make a 10-second video, but it ended up needing to be a 15-second video. You can right click on here, composition settings, go down here and change this to 15. Okay, so it's not set in stone. You can make changes to that. Okay, next let's talk about creating a new layer. So we want our background of our image to be a certain color, and for purpose of this video, you can make it any color you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to click right here in this box, and we're going to come up here, and you can do this one of two ways. You can come up here and do layer. Oh, sorry, I lied. You need to be on the composition. Make sure it's highlighted. Come up here and do layer. And now it's not working. Oh, you have to be on the composition panel now. That's a change. So click on the composition panel, come up to layer and do new and salad, or you can come over here on your project panel, right click, and you can't do it there anymore. So you can come down here to your timeline and right click and do new and salad. But this is the easy way. Just select your composition panel, do layer, new, and solid. Now this is going to pop up. Now, just like if you're using Photoshop or Illustrator, it's easier if you name your layers so that you know what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and call mine orange. I'm going to make an orange layer that's going to be my background color. So I'm going to name it orange. Again, name yours whatever color you're going to do. And I'm going to click on this image right here, this little square, and I'm going to pick my orange. There we go. So I found an orange I like, and I'm going to hit OK. You can now see it's right here, and I'm going to hit OK. Now my entire background is going to be orange. So I need to lock it because I don't want it moving around while I'm doing other stuff on top of here. So I'm going to go right over here in my timeline, right below the little lock, and click it. Now it is locked. I can't move it. I can't do anything to it. You can always unlock it if you needed to change it. You can change the color later as well. So you can make changes to it. It's just locked so we don't move it around. You'll now see over here that we have our lesson 1, and we have a salad folder that has that layer in it. Okay, these do fall in alphabetical order. So if you click on the word name, it'll make it ascending to descending or descending to ascending, either way, however it's easier for you. The order of this area doesn't matter. The order of your timeline is what matters. So up here, it's fine, just the way it is. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to import our image in. So you're going to go in this box right here, and you're going to right click and do import and file. Now, if we were making a video for like history and we needed to add a whole bunch of images into it, a whole bunch of JPEG images or a whole bunch of videos into it, you can go to multiple files and you can pick them all at the same time. But we're only adding one in right now, so I'm just going to go to file. Now, there is a difference depending on if you're adding in a JPEG file or a Photoshop file or an Illustrator file or a video file, and we'll talk about those as we get to them in class. Okay, so we're just going to open File. I'm going to find that folder that I just created. I created mine in Documents, I believe. There it is. And there's my turtle picture. So I'm going to go ahead and just double click on it and open it. You will now see that it's right over here. It's called Turtle. Now, whatever image you have, if you want to change the name of it, like if I hadn't changed it to Turtle before, I could right click on it and rename it right here. Just make sure you leave the JPEG. Okay, so now I have my turtle and I want to add my turtle to my screen so I can work with it. So if I pull turtle down and I drop it below orange, it's going to be hidden because the layer would be below the orange layer. I need it to be on the top. So I'm going to drag it down and I'm going to put it right here. Okay. So now you can see that my turtle is really, really big. And my turtle is really, really big and I need to resize him. So I'm going to have to zoom out, which is Control minus. You can use Control minus and Control plus, just like we have in Photoshop and Illustrator, but Control 0 does something different, so don't use it. Just Control plus, Control minus. So I Control minused out. I want to keep his shape the same. So what you have to actually do in this program is you're going to click on one of the anchor points of the bounding box and click and hold it and then shift and drag down and make it to actually fit your screen. Okay, so mine, I let go of the shift too early, so it changed the shape. So you want to let go of your mouse and then let go of the shift. Okay, so now we have it fitting into this box, so I can Control plus and get it back on the screen a little bit better. Now, right now, if we were to happen to play this video, nothing happens. It just goes through and he just kind of sits there, right? So what we need to do is we need to set what's called keyframes. So like I said, our video is made up of frames, 29.97 to be exact. You have to set what's called keyframes, where we tell it on this specific frame, we want this to happen. You can set up to 29.97 keyframes per second in this setting if you really wanted to go that detailed and have that many, or you could set one keyframe in the entire project if that's what you wanted as well. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that we're working with this. We will be focusing on keyframes a lot and be talking about it a lot more as we keep going through these lessons. What we want to happen though for this is we want the turtle to start off itty bitty, or your image of whatever it is. I want my turtle to start off itty bitty and fly out at me and end at this size. So we're actually going to do this a little backwards. Now, down here at the bottom, you'll see a little mountain and a big mountain. This is how you zoom in and out of your frames in your seconds. So I'm going to push it over to the little mountain so I can see everything for right now, because we're not doing super fine detail keyframes on this. We're going to do some overall keyframes. So I'm going to zoom all the way out, so all the way to the left. Then this is my playhead. And I need to move my playhead to the end. There's a couple different ways of doing this. One, you can just grab it and pull it. Two, you can use the timestamp, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. The third way is to use the shortcut. So I'm going to click right down here on the bottom to make sure nothing's selected at the moment, and I'm going to hit my N key. It's right up by the delete and the backspace on my laptop, so the end. Now, if I wanted to go back to the beginning, I simply hit the home key right next to it, and it'll let you go from the beginning to the end. Okay, so I'm going to press my N key. You can now see that my playhead's way over here on the right. Again, if your end in your home is not working for some reason, just pick it up and drag it over. Okay, now we're going to start making some transformations. So right here, there's a little arrow. You're going to click it and click it one more time, and you'll see it says transform, and it gives you all these options. So anchor point, if I come up here and I click on my turtle, this is my anchor point right now. Anchor points can be moved. So if I was doing something like, easiest example is rotation. So if I was doing something like rotation, I could have my anchor point right here in the center, and as I rotate it, it would spin around the center like a windmill. But if I wanted it to spin from one of the corners, then I could move my anchor point down here and it would spin all the way around. Okay. Position would be where you want it at on your page. Scale would be going from little to big or big to little. Rotation, very simple, turning it around. And opacity would be making it fade in and out. Okay, so we're going to make this fly out at us. So we're going to start little and big. We're going to end it first because it's easier to get hold of these little bounding boxes with a bigger image. So when we shrink it down to start with, then it's going to be really hard to grab those. So we're going to start at the end. So it's on 10, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click scale because it's exactly the size I want it to be. You'll now see, so right here next to scale, there's a little stopwatch. That is your keyframe. So you click that little stopwatch. You're going to see a diamond appear here. And if you have lots of keyframes, then you can space back and forth through them. That's what that does over here. But you should see now there's a little diamond right here on your timeline. And you can see if I hover over it, it's at 9 seconds and 29 frames because remember, we don't have full frames. So we don't have 30 frames, we have 29.97. So it will say 29, or it will say 29 frames, okay? Don't get confused by it. It's at the end, I promise. But this keyframe right now is the keyframe we're working on. So you're going to see that it has either a blue shape around it or it's going to be blue itself. Older versions made the diamond blue. This one has a blue indicator around it. Now we're going to go back to home. So I'm going to press the home, or you can drag your playhead over to the left all the way to the end. And we want to make it small. So it starts small, goes big. So you're going to click the top corner, press and hold it, press shift, and you're going to drag it down till he's itty bitty. And yes, there's ways of doing this by percentage, which is down here, which we're going to talk about later. But right now, just drag it down, get it pretty small. It doesn't have to be an exact size, just so it's small. And now if I click right here and I press my play button, which is right here, or you can press your space bar, you're going to see it play through. And it will start itself over. Now, when we create the actual video and render it, it won't keep playing itself over. It's only doing that because we're in the preview mode. Okay, you hit the space bar again and it stops. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make this fade from nothing into perfect 100%. Okay, so I go back to home again, and you should see there's a diamond here and there's a diamond here. Okay, so I'm going to start at home and I'm going to hit my opacity keyframe. So the little stopwatch next to the word opacity. And I'm going to change that percentage afterwards to 0 and hit tab. When you hit tab, it'll automatically set that keyframe for you. So there's my little keyframe. Bounding box. Then I'm going to go to the end of this. I click down here and clear it, and I hit end, or I pull it all the way across. And I'm going to change that percentage to 100 and hit tab again. And now I'm at 100%. I'm going to use my cursor. I'm going to click down here below everything where it's blank. And now if I hit my play button, you'll see not only does it fly out towards me, but it also gets darker, or actually the opacity comes up. Okay. So go ahead and play it, make sure everything's working okay. And then we have one more step that we're going to do in this. So go ahead, go back to home, so press home or go back to the beginning. Come over next to your image layer and close down your little arrows. Come up here to text, which is the big capital T. That's your type tool. And I want you to type in your name. I don't care if you use your first name, your last name, both of them, whatever you want to do. Type it in, highlight it, and then right over here, here's your character panel. You can change your font, you can change your size. You can also change the color, and this color is a little hard to read, so I'm going to take it and go with a dark blue, just so it's easier for me to read. Now, it is dark blue, but it's still highlighted, so if I just select to the right side of it, you can see here's my letter and my font. Okay, if you need to pause this for a second to go ahead and make those changes, go ahead, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going, and then you just come back when you're ready. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, I have my name typed, I have it looking the way I want it. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab the selection tool, which is the arrow right here. Now, I will tell you the hand tool, actually, if you're zooming in and you're having a hard time like zooming in right where you want, you can move this, take this hand tool and you can pull your workspace around. It doesn't move the actual objects, it moves the entire workspace. Okay, so we want the selection tool so we can move the actual selection. And I'm going to zoom in on this so that you can see it. So see, I zoomed in. I'm going to grab my hand tool and I'm going to pull my name down here where I can see it. Zoom out just a little bit. Okay, so here's my problem right now. Here is my anchor point. You can see it. It looks like the little crosshairs. If I was to do this right now and I move my name all over the screen, this is going to be the point that it chooses to move from. I want it to actually move from the center. So what you're going to do is this pan behind right here, it looks like a little patchwork quilt. You're going to click on it. And then you're going to take your cursor and you're going to just move this as close to the middle as possible. Right now, I'm not 100% worried about it being perfectly centered. I will show you how to do that later. But right now, we want it just to be kind of in the center. So kind of line it up with these two and put it right in the center and then go back to your selection tool and it sets it in place. So now if I move it, I move the whole word. And I'm going to zoom out. Again, make sure that you're at your home position on your timeline and put your name somewhere that you want to. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner. Now we're going to make this fly all over the screen. So right here where the it says your last name or your name in general, you're going to click the arrow and turn it down and then go to transform and click it down again. And we want to set a keyframe for position because right now, watch, if I, watch this, my turtle moves, but my name does not. So I want to make it so that my name will move. So right here under name, position, I'm going to click that keyframe. So no, if I went and played my playhead again, it still would not be moving, but I'm telling it where I want it to start. Then we're going to make it move every 2 seconds. So again, you can come down here and you can scroll over and you can move it to 2, you can move it to 4, you can move it to 6, you can move it to 8. But this doesn't always line up perfectly. So I like to do it this way. This little key stamp or this little timestamp right here, if you click on it and you type in 200 for 2 seconds, it'll automatically move it for you. Then you're going to pick up your name and you're just going to move it. You should see this movement line, this trail line. Then I'm going to go over to my over to my timestamp again, and I'm going to type 4 seconds. And you can see when I moved it, it automatically put that keyframe right there for me. So now I'm going to move it here. And then I want you to do it again for 6. Type in 600, move it again. Change it to 8. And move it again. And you'll start seeing that some of your trail line may start disappearing. It's just so that it doesn't get super busy on your screen. There's nothing wrong. It's still there. I promise. It doesn't. So if you're doing like 500 moves, it's not going to have these like zigzags all over. Okay, then you can type in 10 here, but it's not going to put you perfectly at 10. I'm just going to hit the end key and go to the end, or you can hit your, grab your playhead and just move it over. But again, because we have 9.29 frames, not 10 frames, it doesn't always, if you type in 10 right here, it's just going to move you to 929. Okay, and then move your name back to where it started. So now I'm going to hit home and I'm going to play it. And your name should just fly all over the screen. Now, if you wanted it to move faster, you could make moves every second, every half second, however you want, and set these keyframes. It'll fly faster. If you wanted it to move super slow, then you might just do 2 keyframes in here, and then it takes it that long to move. So you can slow it down. Okay? So once you make sure that it's working okay, I want you to go ahead and save. File, save as, and save as again. Go back to that folder that we're working in. Name it your last name and AE lesson 1 and hit save. And now it's saved it as an Adobe After Effects project. And so let me open that up and just show you. So it looks like this now. Here's my project that I have open. There's the turtle. So everything's in the same place. Now, I will suggest, I didn't do this while I was talking, but save and save often. Once you save it once, all you have to do is Control S every once in a while, and you can save it again, okay? It'll save right back into that same spot. After Effects is a more powerful program than Photoshop and Illustrator, so it does have a tendency to crash sometimes, depending on your computer itself. So save and save often. Okay, now that we have it saved, I'm going to show you 2 different ways of turning this into a video. The first way is not the way that I suggest doing it, but it's a good backup option. So you're having problems with your program, this is a good backup option. So I want you to go up here to lesson 1 and click on it. You would come up here to composition. Now, don't do this step with me, just watch. So you'd come up to composition, you would do add to render queue. Here is all of your stuff, and you would just change your output to wherever you want it to go. You can also change, very basically, you can change some of these other settings. This is why I don't suggest this as being your main rendering, because there are better options. Okay, so I'm going to show you the better options. This is just, you're at home, it's 5 minutes before the project's due, and you need to turn it in. This is a good backup if you can't get Adobe Media Encoder working. Once you change this output to where you want it to go, this little render key right here will turn white. You just click it, it renders it, it puts it into the folder where you told it to go. Okay? But we're going to do it the more optional way. Okay? So you're going to come up. So this, now I want you to click on lesson 1, come to composition, and add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. Now, depending on your computer, this can take a little bit longer to load. Trust me, so worth it. If you are on a newer version, make sure you update this as well, okay? So you can see it's taken just a second to load. Now, we're only doing a 10-second video. It shouldn't take a super long time. The longer the video, the longer it takes. The more images in the video, the more videos in the video, the longer it takes, okay? So let me explain to you how this kind of works. So right here, you're going to see all your choices that you can change on it. Over to the left, this is where your media browser is. Think same thing as, like, you know, using one of these. But what it's going to do is it allows you to pick other places to save it to if you want to change it. Okay, you can also open Media Encoder and just open up the file that you want to queue without actually going through After Effects or Premiere or any of those, okay? So in this first drop down, I have all my students use this H.264 because it saves as an MP4. MP4s are pretty much universal. So it doesn't matter if you're on a PC or an Apple or whatever, you should be able to open an MP4 as a video, okay? Some of the other ones like Windows Media, QuickTime, depending on what type of computer you're on, it may play it, it may not. If you're doing a project and like, my example is the company that I used to work for. I had to make videos for our higher execs. I personally worked on a Mac at the job because I was in the communications department. They worked on PCs. So if I would save things certain ways, they couldn't open them and look at them. And so I'd have to go in and resave them. So H.264 is just an MP4. It's kind of like that base generic, anybody can open it file. So it seems to work the best. So I have you guys do that. The next one over, these presets, these are kind of cool. You can change it to match the source. You can change it to be a good video for Facebook or Twitter, or we're actually going to use YouTube. So if you go to YouTube 720 PhD, this is kind of like the base YouTube video. Okay. If you wanted it to be a little bit higher quality, you could come down here and do like a 4K. We're not getting that fancy for this. So we're just going to start at 720. Now, I will also, while I'm in this, I'm going to suggest that if you're doing things for other classes, a lot of times I know that students will have a hard time creating videos that are too large to either turn into your grading system like Blackboard or Canvas or anything like that, or you can't email them because they're so large. And so you have a hard time turning them in. Saving your files as YouTube files and posting them to a personal YouTube page, you can then submit to the teacher the link, and the teacher can just go to the link for YouTube and be able to watch your video, and you don't have to try and like send it to them or download it or upload it or any of that kind of stuff. You just make it private on your YouTube if you want it to be private, and then you can give the person that you need to the link, which is so much smoother. It's just a good option. Okay, then over here, you're going to click on this little blue line right here. You're going to find your folder, make sure it's in your folder. And again, I'm going to change the name of it to my last name, AE Lesson 1. You can see right below it, it says MP4. It's in the folder that I need it to be in. And you can take it out here to just AE Lesson 1, or you can do it in this AME file. Either way, it should be in that area, and hit save. Now it should say ready right here, and all you do is come up here and you click on the little green arrow. You'll see this thinking. Again, depending on your computer and all of that, how fast it'll go. You should be able to see it. If it does not look the way you want it to look, then there's a problem with the file. So if you see like that rainbow, then maybe you moved something, it's not all in the same folder, that type of thing. That's how you can know if there's an issue with what it's loading. Now, this was a 10-second video with one image. It went really fast. If you were doing a 5-minute video with 30 images in it or 6 videos in it, it may take longer. If your computer's slower, it will take longer, okay? So now it says right here that it's done. It's done. I can come back down here to my folder where it's supposed to be at, double click on it, and I can now watch a video. Okay, so this is going to be what you submit to me for today's assignment, or for this lesson's assignment. Okay, so you're going to turn in this MP4 file right here. So you're going to go ahead and submit that. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I will try and get them answered for you.